G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you are all doing well out there. Well, we got the volatility, didn't we? That we spoke about last week. If you haven't watched last week's video, go check it out. We were discussing the boringness of the market, but of course, Bitcoin has done what Bitcoin does, and that is absolutely spike the volatility with one of the biggest moves we've seen actually nearly ever, and it all happened in about 15 minutes. So to get a move like that, you've really just got to be lucky, to be honest with you. And basically, it's just about being in the right place at the right time. And if you've got a short on or a long on or whatever it is, it's just one of those things. You've sort of got to be lucky. And again, this is a really good testament to why you do not trade with derivatives. You just sit on a spot position and you hold it for the long term, and you don't have to worry about any of these crazy wicks or these moments in time that are really sparked by media frenzy. And look, there's a few maybe conspiracies about why this happened, but no one's going to know until, never. But they may be right, they may be wrong. But let's just duck straight into it, have a little look here about what's going on. So I'm going to start you off with Nat Brunell on Fox. She does a really nice roundup of the sort of events in the last week, better than I can. So I'm just going to leave this to play. If you don't want to listen to it, it goes for 5 minutes. Don't listen, but just have a listen to Nat. She does a really nice, clean job here.
All right, Bitcoin hammered overnight. The whole crypto world was smashed, but particularly Bitcoin, because there was a report that Elon Musk has been a big seller. Now, ironically, Twitter, or X, which is owned by Musk, flagged the story on that with a caption that read, "There's no evidence to support the claim that SpaceX sold 373 million in Bitcoin." So was the journal right? I want to bring in Coin Stories podcast host Natalie Brunell. Natalie, what the heck is going on? I mean, I thought Musk was like the poster boy for crypto, particularly Bitcoin.
Well, I would not be thinking about selling my Bitcoin on this rumor. Obviously, Elon Musk owns X, and you saw that context right there, that there is no evidence suggesting that the company sold, so we really don't know. Right. Now, if they did, it might have been an accounting maneuver because the FASB rules still haven't changed, so it is still prohibitive for a lot of companies to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet because they have to report only the losses. Maybe they didn't sell, but you know what? Bitcoin always moves into stronger hands, so if our hands are stronger than Elon Musk's, I think that's okay.
You never thought he would not be. I thought he's diamond hands all the way, though. You know what's interesting about that, though, is Bitcoin's having a pretty good year. It's sort of a stealth rally, but it's a huge rally. It's still the best performing asset out there this year, isn't it?
That's right. Over 100% up this year. So it was outperforming equities, gold, bonds. You don't see any millennials bragging on TikTok that they bought bonds, right? They're talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah. So that was last night. Yesterday, here's the headline: Bitcoin soars as Argentina. Javier, how do you pronounce it? Milei wins the presidential primary. This is the Bitcoin candidate?
That's right. And, imagine if you're a parent in Argentina and you go to sleep at night and you wake up and your currency has been devalued by almost 20%, which is the reality there. Inflation is over 100% year over year. The peso to the dollar, it's gone down 92%. So people are really struggling. And I think that they resonate with the message that Javier Milei is saying, which is that, you know what, inflation is theft. He's saying the quiet part out loud. And he's really advocating for the working class to be able to take back some of that economic power because they're losing it.
You know what I love about it, too, and it's like El Salvador, they're also saying to the IMF and the World Bank and those kind of folks, hey, you know what, you got us in a twist, you twist us in a knot. We take these loans that are prohibitively expensive, you tether us to these currencies, and then you control them from afar, and we never have control of our fate. That's why Argentina, they have a currency crisis every other year.
Right.
I could see why they would want, an alternative. I would want an alternative. Well, they wake up any given day, you could be down 20% on the peso there.
Right. Bitcoin is a risk-off asset in places like Argentina and Lebanon, where the currency is failing in real time, and Bitcoin has been a life raft.
And it's failing in slow motion here. All right. Speaking of politics, is there a presidential candidate that stands out with respect to Bitcoin?
I think it's worth pausing and noting the fact that for the first time in history, there are 4 presidential candidates that have named a digital asset, Bitcoin, and they are advocating for people's freedom to hold it and transact in it. This has never happened before, and now I don't like to put politicians on the pedestal, but that's never happened before in history that we have 4 presidents.
You're not going to tell us who they are?
Presidential candidates naming Bitcoin. Vivek, Suarez, RFK Jr., and DeSantis all saying Bitcoin for freedom.
You got less than a minute to go. I want to ask you about this Gallup poll. This comes out a lot. I always find it intriguing what Americans view as a best long-term investment. Now, traditionally, housing, real estate, you can see is up there. It's coming down strong, huge. Now, there's an alternative one they do that they finally add crypto in there. It gets 4%, which is near bonds. What do you make of that? I mean, has the PR element to this faded? Before everyone was talking about Bitcoin, you don't necessarily hear it as much on the street.
Well, first of all, I think that something we talk about in the space a lot is that largely homes have become people's savings accounts. But for young people, it's nearly impossible to get a home. People are being priced out of the market more and more. Even people of all ages with mortgage rates at sky-high rates and a home affordability at 4-decade lows. So people are looking for an alternative. And I think that those numbers actually reflect the fact that not a lot of people understand Bitcoin. But what people do understand is that something is wrong. Yeah. Something is fundamentally broken, and what that is the money. The fix is Bitcoin, and as they start to learn about it, they're going to slowly start to accumulate more and more Bitcoin instead of venting all of their frustrations about the cost of living on social media platforms.
Well, they have to do something about it. But to your point, the way the precipitous drop in real estate, stocks, and mutual funds really underscores, and even bonds underscores the fact that they are looking for something and they just know a little bit more. That's what you're here for.
That's right.
You're the ambassador.
That's right. Well, your show's called Making Money. Bitcoin's about making money better for everybody.
It's killing it this year. And it's so funny. Almost every, I think in the last 10 years, Bitcoin's been number one, like 7 times at least? The number one asset 7 out of the last 10 years?
That's right. The performance speaks for itself.
Really
it's volatile
does.
In the short term, but long term, it's outperformed everything. And it's about economic freedom and really dignity, right? Because your dignity is tied to your self-worth. And I think that everyone deserves the chance to have financial freedom and be able to plan for their future and take care of their families.
Great stuff, Natalie. Great seeing you.
Okay, so this is where it all started. This is the Wall Street Journal article that came from nowhere about SpaceX writing down their Bitcoin. Now, they did this in 2021. They wrote this down like ages and ages and ages ago. It's from the purchase they made in 21. But why it came out now, we don't know. So there's a few things that happened. Leverage was up in the system. Long leverage was up. And in the space of a really short period of time, we had some big hits of news. And, what they've got to do with, no one really knows. The Evergrande files for bankruptcy. We've known this for 2 years. This has been the slow death of Evergrande in China, which is a development company. This is not news. We know this, but there's some talk that they have ties with Tether and some of the Tether assets, but whatever. It's a nothing burger. Then we had the SpaceX write down, the article says, or the news that spread through crypto Twitter in breakneck speed said that SpaceX has sold 373 million worth of Bitcoin, which wasn't the case. And then some other news hit straight away, which was the SEC rebuttaling the Ripple case, which had just come out. Now, on top of that, we've always got the news of the government selling their stack of Bitcoin, which, could have been a part of this, and I wouldn't have been surprised to see something like that come out fairly soon. But in the end, I think it was just a leverage scenario, and we had so little volume. There is so little volume in this market at the minute, and it's going to continue to be low volume, I think, because a lot of the coins are held in cold wallets. Now, we've been speaking about this on the positive side, and this will act in exactly the same way to the upside as well in time. We've just got to be patient. So this is one of those markets now, I think, as the volume continues to dry up over the next couple of years, you've got to just stay in the market, because you miss one of these. If that was an up candle, that would have sent us to say 35K perhaps. all of the up moves only happen in a really limited number of days across a year. So you've got to just hang in the market the whole time. And whether we like it or not, perhaps the governments are doing us a favor, the ATO or the tax man in your country, by forcing us to hold for longer durations, because we can't buy and sell, because they're just going to slowly attack us with tax. So yeah, a bit happening here now. The conspiracy is that BlackRock are trying to tumble down the price before they get their approval, which is coming right up at the start of next month, maybe, but unlikely. They tumble the price down now. They scoop up as many coins as they can. They can get their clients into low-cost coins, and they look like heroes because the price rebounds really quickly. So, I don't know. Nothing's going to shock me, quite frankly, regarding this at the minute. And this year, I think, is just going to continue to be a real tricky year. We could now go all the way back down to 20. We could hit 25. We could go up. We could just go sideways. I mean, I don't know. Just write this year off. Just hold them. Oh, dear me. What a fun game. So here's the volatility. You can see it went from very, very low to very, very high in a very short space of time. So, not to be unexpected huge moves. And, this is quite frankly what we're in the game for. Highly volatile assets like Bitcoin, they move both ways. So you've got to be prepared to be able to handle the volatility. And to do that, you have to have either spot positions and no leverage. So, you can just ride it out and not really worry. So on top of that, with this, now we were just talking about leverage. The leverage here was humongous. And the last time we had that much leverage flush was the FTX collapse. And, it's a lot of longs that got flushed. I think it turned out to be something like $1 billion got liquidated. So, the traders got really hurt out there. To be honest with you, the data is showing that there's still a lot of longs. So I figure that while the market makers are short, which they appear to be, we are not going up, and we're just going to go sideways. So let's just see what happens. But yeah, it's certainly not looking like we're going to be hitting 40K anytime soon. Now, Plan B sent this out. Plan B is a controversial sort of guy. Well, he's not really that controversial, but a lot of the space hates him. And I don't really know why. The Swan guys really... Look, Swan are a Bitcoin-only company, and that's great, and that's fine for them. No one really gives a fuck, quite frankly. But they really attacked this guy hard. Whether that's right or wrong doesn't really matter. He got his predictions wrong. His chart, his stock to flow model didn't pan out as everyone was expecting, but he sort of said that at the start, quite frankly. He said it's just a model, like far out. So anyway, he's posted this very good information. This was the 2017 cycle. Now, it's unlikely you might have been around during this cycle, you may not have been. But the important message here is that during this bull market from 2016 to 2018, there were 6 drawdowns of nearly 30%. And so they're huge drawdowns. At the time, they feel like it's over. And we've just had one now that's about 30% from the top to where we are now. So, don't get shaken out, basically, is the majority. Is the moral of the story. They're going to come. These volatile moves are going to come. And as stock goes off of exchanges, in Bitcoin supply slowly gets less and less, this is going to continue to happen. So don't be shocked. Don't be shocked. It's going to keep on happening. So Argentina, we spoke about Argentina last week. I put in a chart of the inflation or the Bitcoin price in the Argentinian peso, and it is absolutely skyrocketing. They are devaluing at a rate of knots. It's hard to comprehend. It's like going to sleep and then you wake up the next morning and the value, your purchasing power has been lost by 20%. That happens day after day after day. So it's a really sad situation for the Argentinians, but looks like this bloke here, and he's going to be controversial with a lot of his thoughts if he's, talking down CBDCs. He's basically the contrarian against the BIS, the World Economic Forum line. And who knows where this is going to go. But his thoughts and his discussion here on Bitcoin and CBDCs is really worth listening to. And I think that this rhetoric is just going to keep coming in. We've got it from RFK. We've got it from like Suarez and some of the other candidates going around in the US. This is going to come up more and more and more and more across the world. And a country like Argentina, they know they're being hamstrung by the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the Bank of International Settlements. We know this. It's so obvious that they're getting pushed into these crazy, crazy debt schemes where they just have to pay out interest forever. So Bitcoin does solve that issue. And look, it's an interesting thought. People only have to think about it, and the politicians only have to hear some of this to maybe do some work and learn a little bit about it. So have a listen, or actually you'll have to read because he's speaking in another language. And unless you speak this, just read the subbies.
De Bitcoin todo el tiempo. No sabemos bien qué son los Bitcoin, pero ya hay gente que lo pondera como una especie de alternativa monetaria. ¿Vos creés que es posible en Argentina esa discusión?
A ver, ¿cuál es el punto? El punto es que lo primero que hay que comprender es que el Banco Central es una estafa. ¿Sí? Es un mecanismo por el cual los políticos estafan a las personas de bien con el impuesto inflacionario. El Bitcoin lo que está representando es la vuelta del dinero a su creador originario, que es el sector privado. El dinero es una invención del sector privado para resolver problemas, digamos, de lo que tiene que ver con, en una economía de trueque sería la doble coincidencia y la indivisibilidad, y después aparece el papel, digamos, como una cuestión de portabilidad. O sea, porque en realidad vos tuviste distintas monedas, o sea, tuviste el lino, el trigo, digamos, la sal, de ahí viene salario, de ahí sí. La superstición de si se cae la sal en la mesa, y eso evolucionó y las monedas que eligieron los agentes, que fueron los individuos, eligieron la plata para las transacciones chicas, el oro para las transacciones grandes, y eso después, digamos, como era un peligro cargarlo, entonces ¿qué hacían? Lo dejaban depositado y se llevaban un comprobante de que estaba eso ahí. Y después en 1445, digamos, en el primer congreso de Génova, digamos, los estados se apropiaron de, digamos, de tener la exclusividad para poder emitir. Ese es que es el curso forzoso, que esta es la clave. ¿Por qué? Porque el curso forzoso es lo que le permite a los políticos robarte con el impuesto inflacionario. El Bitcoin no, digamos, tiene un algoritmo y un día va a llegar a una determinada cantidad y no hay más. Y puede competir con otras monedas. De hecho, compite contra Ethereum, compite contra otras. ¿Y qué es lo interesante? Que es la vuelta al sector privado. Pero ¿cuál es el problema? El problema es que los estados no te van a querer ceder que el curso forzoso, porque del curso forzoso te estafan con el impuesto inflacionario. Entonces, el Bitcoin es la reacción natural frente a la estafa que son los bancos centrales y que el dinero vuelva a ser privado, y la contracara es que los políticos ladrones no te van a permitir ir contra el curso forzoso. ¿Qué es lo que pasa? Cuando vos tenés economías con alta inflación y el problema de la estafa es más claro, entonces hasta podés discutir, como digamos planteo yo, directamente eliminar el Banco Central.
All right, so I guess we like to believe there is a 4-year cycle. And so far, there appears to be. But what else is really interesting, and this is a very interesting chart if you look at it. This is the international M2. We've spoken about this before. We've shown charts with the correlation between money supply and the Bitcoin price. And, you know, the Bitcoin price is the yellow line here. We seem to be lagging where we would normally be. However, there is a correlation. You can see it, I think. There's a pretty good correlation between the Bitcoin price and the highs and the money supply at any one point in time. So as we increase money supply in the trillions, Bitcoin goes up, and as we pull out money supply from the M2, which is the red little down periods, you can see Bitcoin comes down. It's pretty obvious. So all I can say is this, is that we know that they're not going to pull the M2 down much further than they have already, because they can't, because people are starting to really battle. The governments are sort of unable to pay their debt loads. There's strife all around the world. And I just think the easy money game has to continue. There's too much unfunded liabilities to not print more money. So we've just got to be patient for the next leg up in liquidity. And is that going to be a recession that hits later this year and they're going to have to print heaps of money to like bail everyone out? I don't know. Does Bitcoin go to 20K first? Maybe it does. Does it go to 35K first? Maybe it does. I just have no clue. And, anyone who says they have an idea about what the outcome's going to be here is crazy. And all we can hope for is that we find new highs in either late 24 or 25. And we hope that the world liquidity, current stance at that moment in time is loose and there's some money printing going on, because that seems to be the most favorable period of time for Bitcoin. So, we just got to be patient. Now, as I said before, we got the BlackRock, which is iShares. We got the BlackRock official date for the ETF coming up. It's in a couple of days. It's actually not in a couple of days. It's in a couple of weeks. Sorry, pardon me. 2nd of September. So let's see if that comes across. I mean, I just don't think it's going to at this stage. I think they're going to delay. And I think it's going to only happen in 24. I hope I am wrong. I really do. But I'm not expecting anything now. I just feel like it's sort of back chatter. We've had the ETF back chatter for 2 cycles prior to this. There was back chatter about the ETF in 2016. So, just if it comes out, fantastic. But just don't hang your hat or your purchase decisions on that. So to go along with some of these, narratives that are flying around out on the internet, you can see here the Bitcoin monthly returns. There's a really nice chart to look at. And historically, September, which we're coming right up to now at a fast pace, has been horrendous. It's basically always horrendous. It's just hard to say whether we're going to have just a sideways month or a little down or a little up or whatever. I don't think there's going to be much action. So we have to just sit it out, be patient, and just wait to see what happens, because, you've got to, you can't assume that this September is going to be that much different to the previous, 10. So, let's just see if we get some sideways. Really nice little thought process. We're zooming right out here. I just want to end you on some positive stuff, because it's been a bit doom and gloom. We've had the God candle to the downside this week. It's just not a fun time. But you can sort of see here, CryptoCon has produced this thought-provoking little chart, and it just breaks things down into year blocks, and these dotted lines are the year segments, and basically they are timed really well with how the cycle evolves. And the blue lines is the halving, basically. So no, the blue line's not the halving. That's not the case at all. But he's got these sort of concepts with the red year, which is the new all-time high year, the orange year, which is the bear market year, a green year, which is an accumulation year, and a blue year, which is a preparation year. And it's actually a really nice way to think about it. So we are in the accumulation year right now, according to his chart. And as we move into blue, which will be this sector here, we basically cross over to the halving. Then we enter into the preparation, which is the sort of phase as we move. We start an up year, as you can see, historically. We do start an up year, and the halving occurs, and off we go. So halving will be somewhere like here. So I don't know whether we go down or, are we going to retest the base? There's a lot of arguments coming online now. The more arguments I see for retesting 10 or like 15K, or then we're going to go to 10K, the more I think that it's never, ever going to happen. Whether we retest this 25 again, perhaps. Do we test 20K again? Maybe. But, you just got to be prepared for everything. I guess that's the message of today, is be prepared for any situation that might come your way, and you'll be just fine. Got to leave you with Adam Back here. Love Adam Back. Gosh, he's just so old school, and he's been in this since day one, literally. So listen to Adam. He thinks, and he said this actually before the dump, but he believes that there could be a chance of a high number pre-halving. And I see his analysis. I understand it. I think it's solid. It really does hinge on the Bitcoin ETF and whether we can, get the action that we need. So I got to leave you there. Have a great week. Stay well, stay safe. Thanks again for watching as always. Bye for now. See you soon.
Leading provider of blockchain technology, and famed in your world, famed in the Bitcoin world. What will rock me out of this slumber? Volatility, the lowest since 2016. There's a deafening silence. What's going to rock Bitcoin above or below the 29,000 level? Adam, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I guess August is a quiet month in Europe. Lots of people on holiday, but yeah, I think Bitcoin tends to surprise people by, they get bored and then suddenly something dramatic happens. So I think just leave it a while and something will happen.
Well, event risk is always there, isn't it? There's a halving event to come, probably in the spring of next year. What impact will that have?
Well, it's something that there's some debate about whether it's priced in the market. Some people will say, oh, it's priced in, but I think because of the generally high volatility, other than the last month, it's quite hard to price in. And it also punctuates the 4-year halving cycles or economic cycle of Bitcoin. And historically, Bitcoin's done well. Within 6 or 9 months after the halving, there's been a sort of price appreciation part of the cycle. Now, this
So
time,
what do you think is possible?
Well, I think it's possible that we get to, a new all-time high, like 100,000 or more, even before the halving, simply for the reason that the last few years have been kind of a depressed market in general and in the crypto market through, a number of bankruptcies and DeFi failures, things like that.
So you really think $100,000 is achievable in Bitcoin before the halving event? There's no fear that you're very resolute on that?
Yeah, actually, I infamously took a small bet with somebody on Twitter on that. It was just some conversation about whether it would happen or not. And this fellow said, well, let's bet on it. So I let him pick the price. And so we're on. Let's see if it happens.
You got skin in the game. Good man. Look, your company, you raised $125 million. You come from the mining industry, the mining sector. $125 million, do you need more money? What are you going to do with that money, briefly?
That was just the latest fundraising activity. And so we've probably raised about 400. We've been around since 2014. So it's primarily, well, there's two parts of it. One is layer 2 Bitcoin technology like Liquid, which is a securitization layer for Bitcoin, and something we issue investment products on. And the other part is hosting. So we provide hosting for institutional miners. So people like Fidelity, we host all of their miners in our facilities. It's kind of like co-location for mining, people doing mining at fund level.
Just on that mining narrative and the facilities therein, do you see a continued bottleneck in terms of the infrastructure in mining? Where are we in that cycle?
Yeah, actually, that's the subject of a upcoming financial product from Blockstream. But basically, going back a couple of years, there was a shortage of miners going into the Bitcoin bull market. because the price appreciated, mining profitability appreciated, and the manufacturers couldn't produce them fast enough. At this stage in the cycle, there's actually a surplus of miners and a shortage of ready-to-use hosting infrastructure. And you have to bear in mind, a lot of the Bitcoin ecosystem is underfunded, undercapitalized. So people are using leverage, which tends to exacerbate volatility as well.
Now, I said that you're famed in your own world, and of course you are. You're one of the original gangsters. I think that's what you referred to. What we're all curious to know is obviously Satoshi Nakamoto apparently communicated with you in 2008. Have you spoken to this fabled person recently? What do you think he or she would make of Bitcoin now? Do you think that there'd be 100,000? They'd agree with you 100,000 is on the way? Have you communicated? Have you had any communication?
No, I don't believe he's been heard from since something like 2011, and I only communicated via email at the time. So, I mean, I guess we don't know exactly how many Bitcoins Satoshi has, but it would make him, you know, probably one of the 20th wealthiest people in the world at that kind of price.
Okay, so radio silence. Well, he knows where to catch you. You're obviously making bets on Twitter. Well done. Good to have your call this morning on the miners and indeed on the halving event and where prices will go. That's Blockstream's chief executive and co-founder, Adam Back.